Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, thank you so much for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
My pleasure.
What do you make of the evacuations globally, especially when, the message is for people to stay home, maintain social distancing, and all of that to stop the spread of coronavirus? What do you make of people still making international travel a priority?
I've never understood the reasoning behind transportation of citizens across this, especially where where people are being transported from. The situation as regards the virus is better than where they said they want to go. See, this concept of I want to return to my country at a time when the world the virus has forced the world to become a global village, but politics and this nativistic nationalism is still dictating the behavior of people. I don't understand it, but there you are.
Do you think there's anything out of the ordinary with the requirements for evacuation of Nigerians?
I don't find anything particularly extraordinary about that. Neither do I find anything punishing about the conditions. Um, People keep talking about the concept of personal responsibility. I know it is applied to stay at home, keep social distance. In other words, the progress or non-progress of this virus will depend on your own behavior. We'll stretch that further. Nobody forces anybody to travel. And if the government then has to take on this extra responsibility, which is not part of the social contract in terms of, oh, well, I paid my tax, I expect this from government. If government then says, fine, we'll bail you out by making the arrangements, but you will pay. You, after all, you did pay to go to where you were. You will pay to come back. And then there are now, unfortunately, this virus has forced us into this quarantine of 14 days to make sure this. Well, you have to be responsible for that, not government. If it's a war situation, you are caught in the middle of a civil war somewhere which you didn't expect, where one will expect one's government to be a bit more relaxed in terms of what they would demand. But this is a situation like the one we are faced with, even though it is unexpected, where you have to make a contribution towards what the government would do to bail you out.
Is the government being insensitive when it, insists that people who are coming in are quarantined in government facilities? You find that in most countries, people are more encouraged to self-quarantine, self-isolate, only go out when you need, necessities, grocery shopping, buying medicine, getting some exercise, and so on.
The danger with self-quarantine your own homes is what happens to members of your family who are still there living in your house. You expose them to danger. So I think that governments, all governments have insisted on your going to these quarantine centers. Because I remember a particular case where an Englishman tried to escape and questions were asked in parliament and government had to let it be known that they will arrest anybody who tried to escape from the quarantine center. Because, I mean, this is an enemy, a viral enemy, that one person can actually expose 10 people to this, and from those 10 people goes on and on exponentially.
There have been criticism for this government and, the request for people to pay their airfare and to pay for their welfare even after the evacuations. But is it safer really to remain in your host country and not try to get back to your home country?
Circumstances will differ from each person to each person. If you've run out of money, supposing you've supposing you've just gone to London or Paris or Dubai to shop for your wedding, uh, and you are stuck there, where you want to get back home, where you can stay with an auntie or stay with mom or stay with boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, rather than being flung out of the hotel because you cannot pay your bills anymore. But if you live in that particular country with your relatives, whatever have you, then I would advise that you stay where you are until this whole thing is over. Although I do admit we don't know when it will be over, but stay where you are. But if circumstances will not permit that, well, then you have no choice but to ask to be evacuated.
How has COVID-19 affected countries' foreign policies, seeing that shuttle diplomacy has ground to a halt?
In terms of developing countries, I think the major issue is still to come. And we are going to be shocked by what we are going to get when a vaccine is developed. Whoever develops the vaccine is going to make a lot of money, billions, trillions of dollars, because we are talking about vaccination of how many billion people in the world are we? And if you are going to charge per vaccination, you are going to make a lot of money from that. Therefore, whoever develops that vaccine is going to bully you, is going to blackmail you, is going to force you to take that vaccine. And you can imagine if, say, there are 2 or 3 vaccines from 3 different countries, the pressure you will come under to adopt one particular one. Obviously, if the vaccine is developed by China, I could say the kind of negative propaganda that you'll be subjected to. Is this vaccine actually safe? What are the side effects? If something has been injected into you,
Did China know about this before?
exactly. Or else, how come they are the ones who? Now, if it's the United States that developed it first, where they want you to use it, to adopt it, the Chinese aren't too good about negative propaganda, but they're also going to try. Because you see, all economies are nose diving, and the development of a vaccine and how you sell it could actually be a primer to your economy to start coming back up.
With what you're saying, it sounds like vaccine or the search for a vaccine could determine the new world order.
It's one factor. It is one factor. Um, Up to now, the discussion about a new world order has been theoretical. And I'm happy that this issue of the vaccine has come up, because the new world order is going to be determined by an evaluation on an issue by issue basis. As I said, well, we have this vaccine. The 5G is going to come up. There are going to be several other issues. The Americans have this suspicion that China knows more than it's disdain about this virus and that she must not benefit from it economically.
It sounds like the New World Order has already begun. So, where do you see US China relations post COVID-19?
Um, in Trump, they're going to have a fighter who will fight, whether clean or dirty, to protect American interests. I expect Western Europe to also fight to prevent a world dominated by China. They will fight. About the developing world, well, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers.
And where do you see Nigeria in all of this?
I expect people really, I expect a country like Nigeria now to have set up think tanks on post COVID-19, not task forces where governors and ministers, are the key members. They have states to run, they have ministries to run. They are not in a position to focus their mind on how to build a new domestic order and how that domestic order will key into the new international order which they know is coming. You need thinkers, people who are into R&D, who can come up with blueprints. And the Nigerians don't have to be based in Nigeria. Thank God. One of the things that this virus has showed us is that you could sit in Abuja and have through Zoom, you could be participating with somebody in Oklahoma who is an expert in that field. He doesn't need to fly back to Nigeria. That's what I would expect to see happen based in the presidency. It doesn't mean that that will be under President Buhari and it could be in the SGS office, but you need the imprimatur of the president so that people will know this is serious and not just something that the bureaucracy will now try to undermine or derail. That's what I would like to see.
Will this require a change in foreign policy?
One of the consequences will be changes of policy, not just in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but changes in policy all over the federal and state level. Policies, industrial policies, power policies, agricultural policies, building of silos, no, um, um, finding ways and means by which you dovetail the peasant agriculture that we are still using with agriculture at large scale, industrial scale. But then it may mean that government has to actually prime, sponsor, maybe subsidize as to push people down that level.